The architecture of Lebanon embodies the historical, cultural and religious influences that have shaped Lebanon's built environment. It has been influenced by the Phoenicians, Romans, Byzantines, Umayyads, Crusaders, Mamluks, Ottomans and French. Additionally, Lebanon is home to impressive examples of modern and contemporary architecture. Architecturally notable structures in Lebanon include ancient thermae and temples, castles, churches, mosques, hotels, museums, government buildings, souks, residences and towers. Roman architecture. Baalbek is counted as one of the Roman treasures in Lebanon and is home to ancient Roman temples found built at the end of the 3rd millennium BC. The city was referred to as the City of the Sun by the Greeks. The temples have faced theft, earthquakes and civil wars, and where French, German and Lebanese archaeologists rebuilt the temples. In 1984, Baalbek was made a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. They are described as being the finest example of Imperial Roman architecture. The Jupiter Temple is a 6 Corinthian columns of the Great Temple. It is 22 meters high and is built on a podium. In this temple, only 6 columns remain out of the 54 giant columns that originally surrounded the sanctuary. The little temple is found near the Jupiter Temple is known as the Temple of Bacchus. It was built in the 2nd century AD. And considered to be the best preserved Roman temple of its size. Castles. Lebanon is known for having many stone castles. Castles in Lebanon include Castle of Tyre, Ebning Castle, Beaufort Castle, Lebanon, Byblos Castle, Morsa Castle, Sailor Fort, and Sea Castle. Temple of the Obelisks. Byblos is one of the oldest inhabited cities in the world civilization, tracing back to around 8,800 years BC. The city contains historical ruins including a castle and a church which were originally built by the Crusaders in the 12th and 13th centuries AD. The castle holds a historical story where it has been built, surrendered and regained by Crusaders. It takes shape of the Crusaders' designs on the columns, the wall designs and the entrance structures. The castle has multiple vaults inside. Sidon is one of the very popular historic tourist destinations in Lebanon. The 2 main cultural influences on Sidon were the Egyptian pharaohs and the Greeks. The city is known for the Castle of Sidon, which is a castle on the sea that was built in 1228 by Crusaders. The castle was built on the remains of a Phoenician shrine dedicated to the god Melkart. This castle's location falls on an island in the Lebanese city of Sada. It is about 80 meters from the beach, linked by bridge building on a rocky 9 barrages. The roof is usually used for sightseeing, providing an exquisite view of the port and the old remains of the city. The city Sidon by itself has become a touristic destination because of its value in the history of the country as a whole and for the beauty of its architecture. Religious architecture. Roman temples include the temples of Baalbek, Temple of Eshmun and ancient temples in Niha. There are thousands of churches in Lebanon that include but are not limited to St. George Maronite Cathedral of Beirut, St. Louis Cathedral, Beirut, St. George Maronite Cathedral, Beirut, St. George Greek Orthodox Cathedral, Samar, and St. Elia and St. Gregory the Illuminate Armenian Catholic Cathedral. Deir el-Qamar is home to a former synagogue. 19th century. The Beit Eddin Palace complex was built by Emir Bichir el-Chehab II in the early 19th century. The palace entrance leads through the gates into an open space. This area was originally used for cavalry practices and for celebrations, which were attended by the public. visitors and important people of that time. The palace complex is now a museum with pictures, transcripts and documents, including a collection of ancient pottery. It also contains a collection of Romanian gold jewelry, Islamic glazed wares, ethnographic objects, and ancient and modern weapons. Major building projects during Ottoman times included the Grand Sarayal, an Ottoman bank, Capucini Street, Louise Petit Sarayal, Beirut train station, Ottoman clock tower and an Ottoman department store. Outside the city walls, Syrian Protestant College opened in 1866. In 1883 the Jesuits also opened a university on the city's edge. New primary and secondary schools were also established. 20th century and classical architecture to modernism. 20th century architecture in Lebanon included the period of the French Mandate and independent periods. Lebanon and Beirut in particular has seen large-scale developments in recent decades, especially after the Civil War ended. Some historic sites have been lost as new buildings are erected. Swiss architect Adore Juliard designed the Central Bank building. Maurice Hindier designed the Ministry of Defense building and Andrei Wojcinski Lebanese University. The Museum of the Resistance is in Melita. Artisans' House in Ain Marais and Electricité du Liban headquarters in Beirut. Monastery of Unity in Yaz, School of Ain Najm, and SNA Assurances headquarters in Beirut are other modernist examples. Contemporary architecture. International architecture firms have also played a role, and 21st-century projects include the new Beirut Souks by Raphael Monnier, Hariri Memorial Garden and Zaytoune Bay. The Arab Center for Architecture was established in Beirut in 2008. VJAA designed the Charles Hosler Center in Beirut. Beirut. Archaeological artifacts show Beirut was settled back to the Iron Age. Beirut was a city of glory during the Roman era. It then became occupied by different civilizations, some of which were the Crusaders in 1109, the Mamluks in 1291, and then Ottomans, who stayed in Lebanon for 400 years until 1916. The country then went through a period of French Mandate until 1943. During this period, European architecture was introduced. Up until the first half of the 19th century, it was not as significant as other cities along the Mediterranean seacoast, and few pre-19th century landmarks remain apart from some religious buildings. In 1831, Ibrahim Pasha established himself in the city in the wake of his struggle against Ottoman rulers. The toll road to Damascus was constructed in 1863, a Rosdybeck department store in 1900, and the Arts and Crafts School in 1914. The city now features modern buildings alongside Arabesque Ottoman buildings. Roman and Byzantine structures are found in the city, and Beirut is famous for a group of 5 columns that were discovered underground in the heart of the city during 1963. The group of columns were traced back and found to be a small part of a grand colonnade of Roman Berytus. Residential architecture. The first residential houses in Lebanon were the Phoenician houses. They were bricks and the roofs were always formed from huge rocky segments. The perception deriving the method of building a house met some changes after the 3rd millennium BC, when the walls of the houses increased in height. Some houses were built with stones, others remained rectangular, and all increased in dimensions. The exterior and the interior walls were covered sometimes with mud. Lebanese houses incorporated the rules of the Ottoman Empire and the exit of the French Mandate. Architects. Prominent architects who worked in Lebanon include Bichara Effendi, an Armenian Lebanese architect who designed Petit Sarayal, Menshia, and a police and internal security headquarters. Youssef Aftimis, Beirut City Hall. Mardiros Altunian, a graduate of the École des Beaux-Arts, he designed Lebanese Parliament, Arbad Clock Tower in Neima Square, Armenian Sanatorium of Azanieh in the Chaouf region, and National Museum buildings. Ilyas Mir, the first Lebanese engineer to graduate from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, he designed the Art Deco Roxy movie theater in central Beirut. Antoine Tabet graduated from the École Supérieure des Ingénieurs de Beirut in 1926 and worked in Paris under Auguste Perret until 1932 when he joined Jacques Poirier, Georges Bourdes and André Lot to design the Hotel Saint-Georges. He also designed the Almaz of Beer Factory and Sagessi School in Akrafia. Tabet and Ferrad Trad were modernist pioneers in Lebanon. Carol Scheer, graduates of the Polytechnic School of Lvov in 1920, emigrated to Lebanon during World War II. He teamed with German interior designer Fritz Gotthelf, Wasek Adib and engineer Bahij Makdisi to establish an architectural firm that designed the Orb Alumni Club, Dar al-Sayyad, and the Shell Building. Michel Lecoultre graduated of the École des Beaux-Arts who developed the first master plan of Beirut to be implemented. With Claude Lecoeur he designed the Collège Protestant on Marie Curie Street and went on to design the Grand Lycée Franco-Libanais, and Sacré-Cœur Hospital in Hasmia. André Leconte designed the Beirut International Airport at Khalda and also designed the Lazaria office building in downtown Beirut. NIZK Hospital, 1957, in Akrafia. George Ador, a graduate of the Zurich Polytechnic School, designed the Starco Center with his partner Dominique Juilliard as well as the Central Bank building and the Presidential Palace in Barda. Joseph Philippe Karam, George Reyes, born in Alexandria, Egypt and attended the Batchelor School and the Architecture Association, went on to design several projects with partners Theo Kanaan and Assem Salam, including the Pan American building in the center of the city. He also designed Arida apartment building with Theo Kanaan. Oscar Niemeyer, from Brazil, designed the Tripoli, Lebanon, Tripoli International Fair, Rashid Karami Fair. S.M. Salam, a graduate of the University of Cambridge, he designed the Serel of Sada Karkogi Mosque. Ramana High School dormitories. He worked with George Reyes and Theo Kanaan, and went on to be involved in the design in many important buildings. Michel Aboud, Pierre El Khoury, known as Sheikh Pierre, studied at École Nationale des Beaux-Arts, returned to Lebanon and designed more than 200 buildings, including Ghazal Tower, Moritra Residential Building, British Bank in Beirut, and Basilica at Our Lady of Lebanon in Harissa, Lebanon. Pierre Khoury, Nabil Golem, Georges Henry Issa, Joseph Philippe Karam, Nadim Karam, Sari El Khazan, Bernard Khoury, Hashim Sarkis, Zaha Hadid. American University in Beirut buildings. Other architects who have helped shape Lebanon include Khalil Khoury, his brother Georges Khoury, Grégoire Serov, Raoul Verny, Jacques Liga-Belair, Pierre Niemeyer, Antoine Romanos, Pierre Niemeyer, Karl Scheer, Fritz Gotthelf, Bahij Makdisi, and Wasek Adib.